So Anderson Silva just fought in the boxing match. Do you see if these fighters are getting cut, or maybe they just choose to leave more so to do that whole kind of free agent and make more money off of
Yeah.
a different event, kind of, with the Jake Paul and everything going on? Do you see that kind of being a trend and maybe taking away from the UFC's draw at all?
God, that's a good question. I don't think so. I'm curious to see how much longer this kind of, I don't want to call it a circus, but kind of like, Anderson
Could be.
Silva versus Julio Chavez Jr. to me wasn't a circus, right? Like Anderson Silva is one of the greatest striking fighters we've ever had in the UFC, and he's been, Jones in the box for a long time. No pun intended. He wanted to fight Roy Jones Jr. in his, he was in his prime, and Roy Jones a little bit out of his prime, but that was years ago, and Dana kiboshed that. So, I'm just curious. I'm just curious how long this Logan Paul and Jake Paul train's gonna last. If Jake were to, get stomped out and, flatlined by Woodley, I don't know what happens with this TikTok, YouTuber, fight world. I think we're in a bubble right now, and I don't know the longevity of it. I think, to be honest, I think the longevity rides with how long Jake Paul's gonna win. I really do. It's because once he loses, or let's say he moves on to something else, I think people are over it, man. I really do. So there's a lot of pressure on Jake, which he doesn't care. But if they want to continue to do this, I think it falls on Jake Paul's shoulders, unfortunately. And now, as far as it taking away from the UFC, these are good questions, man. I don't think so, because it's with the UFC, it's all about market value. So I'm happy for
Mm.
Woodley getting this huge fight, or when Conor fought Floyd, or when these guys get these fights, or Ben Askren, to that matter. Like, it's such a big payday for them, because there's really no middleman, and they're getting all the rewards from it. So it's like you've won the lottery. Again, I don't know how long that's
Yeah.
going to last, but again, it's to the UFC's credit, I guess. I'll give them credit. It's all about market value. Like, how many pay-per-views can you sell? Or like, how many t-shirts can you sell, or how many viewers can you get? So it's kind of on the fighter not only win, but also, bring people to the sport so they're undeniable. Like, you look at Izzy or Connor, these big names in the sport, or Francis,
Yeah.
like, they're winning. So you got to win, and you also got to make yourself a star. So UFC pays you. They're never going to pay you your worth, but you're at least getting some piece of the cake. So I don't think those Logan Pauls and Jake Pauls take away from the sport. I think, when they go, oh, look how much we're paying guys, and Dana doesn't pay the guys. The issue is that's a one-time fee for those guys. UFC's putting
Yeah.
what, 55 cards on a year. So it's tough, man. It's just it's a battle that is going to happen to the end of time. I don't think there's going to be like a fighters union while I'm alive. I just don't think they're going to figure it out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think that they'll figure it out either. But that was kind of where my question was going. I'm like, could it be? You never know, but I don't think it'll happen either.
With a union,
Real quick, yeah,
yeah, dude, I've been in on those convos. When they were doing that whole fighters union thing, they wanted me part of the board, and I've sat down with them, I've talked with them. It's like wrangling cats, man. It's just, you would need, the Izzies, the Connors, the Amanda Nunes, the Francis, the all the big boys, the Kamara Usmans, the Max Holloways, the Volkanovskis, the Brian Ortegas, all the big boys, to get together and be like, hey, we're not fighting till we figure out a deal here, man, because you're paying us basically, I think it's 18% of your profits. Every other league's 50%. And then now, I don't know if anybody notices, but does anybody notice that the UFC is doing fight nights in the Apex Center? That costs them nothing. It's an in-house
yeah, nothing.
production. There's no crowd. So it's like, they're just paying for flights for the fighters. But does anyone notice that they're not, all fight nights are basically at the Apex Center now? So it's
Yeah,
like,
somebody had actually called Dana out on that at the last press
oh, did
conference, I
they?
believe.
Oh,
Yeah,
sick.
they asked
Be,
him if they
be,
were gonna bring fight nights to fans, but he's like, we're probably just gonna keep him at the Apex, but that's probably why.
Yeah,
So that makes
yeah, because
sense.
they're
But
saving a ton of money. I mean, there's no gate, but for them it's cheaper. So it's like, all right, if you're gonna cut costs and not travel and rent out the arenas and the staffing and the security, and those arenas are expensive, man. So it's like, all right, we know
yeah,
you're saving money on that. Well, why don't you put that into the fighters? Because you guys are saving money, but the fighters are gonna be paid the same. It's kind of like, some of these are no brainer to me, but they're never going to get more money. It's kind of like the NCAA. Like, the NCAA just had a thing passed recently where they lost in court 9-0, which is good, but it's like there's not a more corrupt organization than the NCAA. You're telling me that when Ohio State plays in a fucking Sugar Bowl and they get 60 million, and now this kid, because he took, $200 from a booster, is suspended, and yet you said so when Tim Tebow was playing at University of Florida, he had the number one selling jersey in the world over Michael Jordan, LeBron James, you name anybody. Tim Tebow had the number one selling jersey in the world. He saw zero fucking income from that. Zero. University of Florida went,
Yeah,
yep,
that's
give
insane.
it, give it. It's nuts. There's no more. There's
Yeah.
not a more corrupt organization in the world than NCAA.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, good luck with that, and then good luck getting those fighters more pay at fight nights.